Hi kids, this is Ivan and I'm here to talk to you about Battlefield 2 Modern Combat, even though it should just be called Battlefield Modern Combat because it's the first Battlefield game on consoles. It is not, however, the first Battlefield game in general. There were several Battlefield titles on the PC, but all of them were really multiplayer centric. And if you tried to play the single player versions of those games, you'd basically want to stab yourself in the head with an ice pick because it was just pointless. So EA took a couple years of development, fleshed out a console game, and added a legitimate single-player component. So before we get into talking about why multiplayer is cool, let's take a quick look at the single-player game.
Three submarines were on a strictly defensive mission when they were sunk in an unprovoked Chinese attack. Enemy forces took control of a vital oil platform, leaving locals wondering about the threat of sabotage to the offshore facility.
So in fleshing out a good single-player experience, EA created two separate storylines told through two different vantage points, that of the Chinese and the generalized NATO-US forces. Now what's cool about this is that each of the two different factions bombards players with propaganda of its own. So if you play one mission as a Chinese, say maybe storming an armed tanker that's making its way into port, you'll get the whole Chinese propaganda. Oh, these are evil guys, they got something mysterious in the hold, go blow the shit out of them. But when you play the next mission as the American troops, they'll talk about how the Chinese ruthlessly attacked a civilian tanker, even though that clearly wasn't the case.
Chinese forces attacked an unarmed civilian vessel, and heavy casualties are feared in this devastating assault.
So you're getting the two-sided story of the same thing, these events that are happening in the nondescript nation of Kazakhstan. Even though it's good for something in real world, you know, maybe, who cares? Anyway, you're fighting there, and you get to see it from two different viewpoints, which is pretty cool. But all of that takes a backseat to the actual gameplay. So the biggest addition to the Battlefield formula isn't actually the AI. The guys are still pretty dumb, they come in waves, but they do have a lot of cool scripted patterns. The coolest part is actually the hot swapping. Now since you're a part of an army, you have a lot of comrades with you, right? And most of them, true, are dumb just like the enemy AI is, but you can take control of any of them at any time by just pointing at them and clicking a button, bam, you zoom across the map, has a neat little soul-possessing effect with some blurry sounds and some wind whistling through your hair. Take control of that guy, start shooting, see a tank coming in, slap over to an engineer across the map, shoot the tank, slap over to a sniper across the map, like bam, 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 happens really fast. Doesn't involve any of the complex squad-based mechanics that other games do, but it gives you a sense of being a part of a greater battle, like you're in control of all these guys and you're always in the action, which makes the game really well paced for most parts. You don't ever feel like there's a lull. You're always fighting and you're always doing something new, and it doesn't have any kind of clunky inventory screens or stupid covering command systems or anything like that. And EA uses this hot swapping technique and the basics of Battlefield, like vehicle control, in a lot of mini games that are separate from the single player storyline. These are called challenges. But eventually you'll get through with those and you'll want to jump online.
Challenge complete.
Now Battlefield Online offers 24 players, which is sizable even though it doesn't compete with the 64 players of the PC version. And the maps are all solid, they have a lot of decent choke points, and they very prominently feature a lot of the vehicles. So you'll have to use the helicopters, the jeeps, and the boats all in tandem to take on your enemy. But of course the multiplayer is kind of limited in that there's only one major game mode, the Conquest, where you have to capture flags of your enemy, just kind of run around shooting guys. And there isn't a lot of universal stat tracking or anything cool or rewarding to encourage players to keep playing or be a part of a team. There's no consequence to losing or resounding success or parade to winning, you know, associated with winning. So even though Battlefield is a somewhat generic online title, the fact that it does offer 24 players in large environments with a lot of vehicles means you'll likely be wanting to play more and more with other people. And that is going to be the reason why people stick around playing Battlefield. But again, don't just disregard the single-player campaign. You'll actually buy this game and invest some good hours in the single-player before you jump online into what feels like a somewhat toned-down multiplayer. So it's a great game. You should buy it. There.